In this video, we're going to prove argument on sustainable development goals using rules of inference. So the first sustainable development goal that we are going to prove is an example argument in gender equality. So now, let's consider the problem and show that the following argument is valid. Gender equality is being pursued. If gender equality is pursued, then discrimination rates will decrease. If discrimination rates decrease, then crime rates will also decrease. If discrimination and crime rates decreases, then we can have safer communities. Gender equality is being pursued, therefore, we can have safer communities. Our conclusion is, therefore, we can have safer communities. Now, let's say that G is gender equality being pursued, D is discrimination rates decrease, C is crime rates decrease, S is we can have safer communities. Our next step, we need to convert all these premises in their propositional logic form. Gender equality as being pursued can be written as G. Then if gender equality is pursued, then discrimination rates will decrease. So G implies D. Next, if discrimination rates decrease, then crime rates will also decrease. So D implies C. If discrimination and crime rates decreases, then we can have safer communities. So D and C imply S. So our conclusion is we can have safer communities can be written as S. To get the conclusion S, we can use rules of inference method. First, we can use modus ponens in hypothesis 1 and 2. So G implies D and G, therefore D. Since G is true, then D is also true. We can have the conclusion D. We already have hypothesis 5, which is D. Next, we can proceed to the next step. We can use modus ponens in hypothesis 3 and 5. So D implies C and D, therefore C. Since our D is true, therefore C is also true. Next, we can use conjunction on hypothesis 5 and 6. So D and C, therefore D and C. Next, we can use again modus ponens to get our conclusion S. So D and C implies S and D and C, therefore S. Since we have derived S, which safer communities, from the initial premise G, which is gender equality being pursued, through valid steps of inference, the argument is proven valid. Thus, if gender equality is pursued, we can indeed have safer communities. The second sustainable development goal that we're going to prove is example argument in quality education. So now, let's read the problem. Either quality education is prioritized or not. If quality education is prioritized, then economic productivity increases. And if the government invests more in education, then it can lead to a more skilled worker. If we have a skilled worker, then economic productivity will increase. Economic productivity decreases, therefore, quality education is not prioritized. Our conclusion is, therefore, quality education is not prioritized. Next, let's say Q as quality education is prioritized, E is economic productivity increases, G is government invests more in education, and then S is it can lead to a more skilled worker. Next step, convert all premises in their propositional logic form. Okay, so either quality education is prioritized or not can be written as Q or not Q. If quality education is prioritized, then economic productivity increases. And if the government invests more in education, then it can lead to a more skilled worker. So Q implies E and G implies S. If we have skilled worker, then economic productivity will increase. So S implies E. Economic productivity decreases, so not E. Therefore, quality education is not prioritized. Our conclusion can be written as not Q. To get the conclusion not Q, we can use rules of inference methods. We can use modus tollens in hypothesis 2 and 4. So Q implies E, not E, therefore not Q. So now we have our conclusion not Q. This formalizes if economic productivity decrease, then quality education is not prioritized. This argument is proven valid. The last sustainable development goal that we're going to prove is example argument in climate action. Example problem. If governments implement strong climate policies, then global carbon emissions will be reduced. If global carbon emissions are not reduced, then severe climate-related disaster will increase. Governments are not implementing strong climate policies, therefore, severe climate-related disaster will increase. Our conclusion is, therefore, severe climate-related disaster will increase. Next, let's say P is government implements strong climate policies. Q is global carbon emissions will reduce. R is severe climate-related disaster will increase. So now, let's convert premises in propositional logic form. If governments implement strong climate policies, then global carbon emission will be reduced, can be written as P implies Q. If global carbon emissions are not reduced, then severe climate-related disaster will increase. So Q implies R. Governments are not implementing strong climate policies, so not P. Therefore, severe climate-related disaster will increase. So our conclusion can be written as R. So now, let's now prove the argument. First step, we can apply modus tollens in hypothesis 1 and 3. So P implies Q and not P, therefore not Q. Modus tollens states that if P implies Q is false, then Q must be also false. Since P implies Q is false and not P is true, so we can conclude not Q is true. Now, we have not Q. We can now proceed to the next step using modus ponens in hypothesis 2 and 4. So Q implies R, not Q, therefore R. Modus ponens states that if not Q is true and not Q implies R, then R must be true. We conclude that R must be indeed be true based on the premises provided. Thus, the argument logically follows, demonstrating that if governments do not implement strong climate policies, it will lead to an increase in severe climate-related disaster. So this argument is valid.